we have to be grateful that we are here, especially in the United States, that we're safe. And all the other, people in the world, they are struggling. And it's important to speak loud about the all terrible things and challenges that people are facing. But it's also important why they're facing it. They are fighting for the better life. So this joy is very important too.
Welcome to episode 2 of Inside Astral, our series on Astral Artists, a Philly-based musician mentoring program. They select artists with a vision for the future of classical music. Astral works with these artists on interacting with audiences on and off stage. Hey, I'm John Search. Polish flutist Antonina Styczeń joined me for this episode, and we had a great conversation about her commitment to playing music by women and by Iranian composers. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, let's hear her play a piece by Astor Piazzolla. That was Spring, or Primavera Porteña, from Astor Piazzolla's Four Seasons of Buenos Aires. Antonina Styczeń on the flute with fellow Astral artist and accordionist Iwo Jedynecki, and Pola Benke on the cello. Antonina has a lot of fun in her performance, and that goes for classical music and her ventures outside it, such as into film score, Persian pop, and even EDM. She told me that interest in all music began at a young age, but she got to really start pursuing multiple genres while studying at Boston Conservatory at Berklee College of Music.
I would say that Boston Conservatory previously had like a pretty big history of, very much classical training. So together with this merge that happened just before I moved to the United States, kind of the rules got a little bit loose in treating classical music as the only one good way to play your instrument.
And they don't have to be those rules, right?
Yes, exactly.
And so now you work with all different kinds of musicians, not just strictly classical.
Yes, that's the beauty of living in Los Angeles and being a, flexible musician on the market, that you never know who's going to call and what kind of music you're going to play.
In a given month, living in LA, who might you play with?
In the next month, I'm going to start preparing for my next tour with Persian artist Gugush. We're going to Kuwait, Beirut, Bahrain, and other places in the Middle East and Canada and States. So I'm not going to play much of classical music. I'm switching back to Iranian pop.
Uh-huh. And so perhaps in a given month when you're not prepping for a tour, who would you play with?
Well, I'm going to play again with my friend Pola on cello and our friend pianist Filip Matsura in Beverly Hills Festival. We're going to play a pretty eclectic program again. Like always, combining a little bit of Dead White Dudes, but also Ecstatic Samba by Kevin Day, and I think something by Mel Bonny, the French woman composer. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a typical month for me. A little bit of classical, a little bit of Persian pop, maybe some movie scoring if I'm going to get a call to record in a studio.
In LA, that would be a thing that happens.
In LA, everything happens. Everything can happen in LA.
So circling back, does that open-mindedness among different styles of music, does that also inform what classical music that you play?
Most definitely. Since I began my studies, more professional studies, I would say, undergrad and grad schools, and, I worked with multiple different teachers and worked with multiple different professors. My approach was a little bit less conservative than my friends, and I was never interested in pursuing an orchestral job. So that first choice, in the age of, I guess, 18 or 19, was responsible for looking different ways to express myself in music. And that led to where I am now, playing everything from classical, baroque, and modern music, contemporary, to, Persian pop.
So what music are you listening to these days?
Okay, so my Apple playlists are ranging from women composers of classical music to EDM. Actually, I was planning to do some EDM on myself in Berklee. I just did one song that took me 1 month to create, that other producer took and redone it in less than 2 hours. So I said, this is maybe not my thing to do.
I see some electronic pop on your YouTube channel.
Yes, exactly. And that's one of these few little trials. Definitely R&B, definitely Beyoncé, Lizzo, a lot of pop. But more rooting from jazz, that kind of a story. But yeah, EDM too.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about reggaeton is my favorite. Mi Gente or Bad Bunny.
Antonina was actually hesitant to mention the music she enjoyed that many people understand to be so far away from classical music. She and I talked about responsibility as a contemporary musician. I think one of them is to be well-rounded and open-minded. Antonina expanded on that.
For me, responsibility in classical music should always come from the musicians themselves, not necessarily relying on the big institutions to change the way how we progress in this genre, right? Because sometimes I feel like young musicians are not being very encouraged to look for different ways of how we can see classical music in a few years. But they can start, and we can start, and myself including, from just, our own expressiveness and the way how we program, how we talk about our music, how we connect with our audience, and how we're bringing this world that we want to create in the future to our art right now.
How should we see classical music in, say, 5 to 10 years? What is your vision for that future?
So I'm going to reflect on something that little girl said today to me in a North Philly public elementary school when we played a program combined of Valerie Coleman music, bunch of Disney songs and stuff like that. And she asked me, hey, can you play some Asian composer? And I'm like, sure. And I said, I'm going to play for you a little bit of music of Yuko Uebayashi. And she said, wow, this is so cool. Great. I played. And then she raised her hand and asked, can I have a question? Why are you all playing only women composers? And I asked and then answered, well, because we couldn't a couple of years ago. And this is the same story with all the communities that are underrepresented, and classical music especially. And I strongly believe that in the United States, where the population is growing more diverse, ethnically diverse each year, and it's more ethnically diverse by more than 40% right now, right? It's 67% of diversity here. Yeah. We have to change that. It has to reflect in classical music as well. Because we're not going to fill the holes if we're going to just, play a bunch of music written by people who basically, belong to one race only and sometimes one nation only, like Beethoven and, big German names. Yeah. And I just wish for classical music to survive, because the music that we play is going to reflect the communities that we're living in.
Absolutely. Well, you've brought a great example of something that's actually much older that can reflect today very well. And so let's talk about why after we hear the piece. Could you tell us what that is?
It's going to be Sonata Duodecima, Opus 16 by Isabella Leonarda.
bravi.
Thank you so much.
So, one of your main motivations in this responsibility is to play music by women.
Yes, that's right. I'm a big supporter of my own sex. I'm actually trying to balance 50-50. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes I actually, going full aboard and playing 100% women composers. But I just looking always for the music that is expressing my own emotions and how I want to connect with my audience.
So expressing your own emotions, I think, ties in really well to perhaps how people played in the Baroque period. And now what I mean by the Baroque period is from about 1600 to about the middle of the 1700s. And in fact, it goes earlier than that for the form of expression. But can you talk about how that is connected to your expression and perhaps how that relates to how people play today?
Sure. For me, Baroque music is allowing me for much more freedom than the other periods of time that we perform in classical music. All of the ornamentation we using and the free choice of doing so, it's just, allowing me fully to express myself the same way as, for example, jazz improvisation allowing me to do so, or free improvisation as well.
Could you perhaps play maybe one of the passages in the Leonarda, or just anything that you would like to improvise that is an example of that?
Sure. So maybe I'm going to play just a little passage of Leonardo that is actually written, and then I'm going to do some free improvisation on imaginative theme
Awesome.
from my head.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot.
I can tell in the musical line that you chose for the second part of that it relates both to the Baroque piece that you performed earlier, and it would make sense if it were just composed today as well.
Yes, definitely. You could hear some, more modern harmonies. But actually, I believe that this sonata by Isabella Leonarda is very modern in style for a Baroque composer. That's one of the reasons why I chose it, not only because the piece was written by a she.
Of course. And that's, I think, one of the elements that connects Baroque music and contemporary music, and why so often when you see a group playing contemporary music, they're also into Baroque music.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely lots of contemporary musicians are going to Baroque music just, to have a little bit of a link between these two words. Because also, the techniques that we're using in Baroque music are a little bit different than what we would use in a classical or romantic period. And most definitely all the ornamentation we're using, it's kind of like a little bit of a cheating from all the romantic and classical periods that we're not playing them, and still kind of having a link to the classical music that all the people can recognize.
Yeah. One thing I also find about the Baroque period and before that is in pretty common with some music being made today is that it's aware of the music of their time and place, in that they were using the folk music of their region and their time.
Yes, most definitely, especially before Baroque, right? Renaissance and medieval music, it's really linked to folk music and what people were listening at the courts, most likely, because I don't believe the folk music that the real folks were listening to is that one that is actually got written and published, but definitely there is some correlation in between these two. And in contemporary music, or even in especially in 19th century and 20th century, the folk music and going to the roots and heritage was so important to many nations around. And I think, like, in contemporary music right now, the theme of going back to the roots is very much present.
Why do you think that returning to the roots in music is more present and common these days?
I think people are trying to identify themselves with certain groups, and they want to feel that they're part of the community. They want to feel belonging. And also I think we're all looking for security in what we're doing, right? And I think going back to the roots is like the easiest and most safe way to do so. Like, Dvorak, when he came here in States to, create the American School of Music, for example, and he tried to, find some roots, and he was so fascinated with, African Americans and their spiritual music, and, tried to force, that, well, this is kind of cool, American folk.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people from the, Northeast said, well, wait a moment, like, we have nothing in common with this music. We don't even know this music. We don't have much African Americans here. And, creating the music based on your roots can be a very fulfilling experience. But I believe this is not the only one way to go. You have to be very open to all the experiences and all the people and different cultures that are around you, because that's making this experience so much more fun.
Yeah, it's both your own and welcoming to others.
Exactly.
So you've got two more pieces next, and these are a bit newer, and I think they're also examples of music that goes back to those roots. So could you talk a bit about those, and then we'll hear them?
Absolutely. So first choice of the music that is very much linked to the heritage and the roots. It's actually my roots and my colleague Iwo Jedynecki, who gladly joined to perform with me. And it's going to be Oberek by Grażyna Bacewicz. And Oberek is one of the most popular, very fast dances back in Poland, where we are from. And this Oberek especially was written by Grażyna in the 50s, late 50s, I would say. Mm-hmm. And it was quite original in the style of the folk dance that many folk groups are performing till now. But I kind of took this piece and twisted it a little bit with contemporary techniques. Because the piece was originally written for piano, then transcribed for violin, and I think it's the most famous encore violin piece in Poland and in Europe, honestly, because of the Wieniawski violin competition. Yeah. Everyone playing Oberek by Grażyna Bacewicz. I took a little bit of a modern twist, transcribing it for flute. And the other piece that is very close to my heart is Reza Vali folk songs, Persian folk songs, set number 9 for flute and cello. And this piece is just amazing spectrum of all Persian dances and melodies with lots of modern twists, because I don't know how many instruments we're going to play actually and how many texts I'm going to play, but for sure more than just 2, flute and cello. And we're going to play a little bit of a percussion, we're going to sing, we're going to whistle. I'm going to play all flutes that are actually made and used in classical music world. And you're going to hear also a lot of different and extended techniques from cello as well. We're going to play just a little short excerpt from this piece, number 6, for singing flutist and singing cellist.
Antonina, thanks so much for being here. Ivo, Pola, thanks for coming as well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Inside Astral. This episode, we featured flutist Antonina Styczeń, and joining her were Astral accordionist Iwo Jedynecki and cellist Pola Benke. Our senior producer is Alex Arif, and Paul Marchesani is our engineer. Tyler McClure is our production director with assistance from Ryan Hankins. Zev Kane is WRTI's classical program director. Shout out to Lourdes, Grace, and Elisa from Astral. Be sure to follow WRTI on all the socials, YouTube, all the things, and don't forget to tell a friend about WRTI. And if you aren't already, become a member so we can keep bringing you more great podcasts like this. I'm John Search. Thanks so much for joining us. Till next time.